Kimi Räikkönen on the podium? Don't think that's right. Two McLarens not starting the race? Yeah, that could be right. Welcome back to Grandstand Therapy, where we dive into all the emotions of each race recap. This week we have Shanghai, and it was definitely a lot of emotions. So, lots of jam packed weekend. We knew that going in. It's our first sprint weekend of 6 for this season. Thought it was a little ambitious for them to do a sprint weekend on the second round, but here we go. I kind of thought the sprint race would just be kind of like a miniature race for them to test out, see how they would do for the race. We've had, as you know, Australia was a beast last week, so they need all the practice they can get. The only negative going into this is that you don't get the 3 practice sessions. So you can't play around with different things, figure out what's working, what's not. If you have a mechanical failure, you're out. I mean, there's just so many crazy things that can go on when you have a sprint weekend. And so I kind of, like, again, thought it was a little ambitious for them to put it the first one, second round, but that's the way it went with the schedule. So before the race, let's talk about practice. There was only one. I did again watch Sky Sports. Again, loved every minute of it. It was really great. They actually took us behind. The Ferrari decided to use their Macarena flip flop wing this week. They were going to try it out in practice session, and they actually went up close and personal with it. So they actually showed us how it worked, show us what it did, how it connected. Bernie really explained it really well, and Ted, of course. Essentially, it sounds like what the wing is supposed to do is provide more downforce in the corners and more drag in the braking zones, and then also 5 kphs on the straightaways. They also, Ferrari added a white kind of plastic clear thing at the front of the halo. I think that was supposed to create a little bit more airflow over the top of the car. Again, to try to help them with, I think, some speed was the idea behind that. It's not the first time we've seen it. Actually, I've been watching previous races, and I believe it was in 22 Red Bull had it on their car too. So it is definitely innovative, but I don't know if it did any good or didn't. Also, we had some great interview sessions with Sky Sports this week. We had Arvid Limbad. Ted Kravitz went to his home country in India and kind of did like just how he has started his career, and at 13 became a Red Bull part of the Red Bull team, and they really sponsored it and kind of guided him, and he's had a really great F3, F2, he's done really great. And honestly, I see him doing great things. He is really very impressive, very fast, very level headed. I really like to see what he's going to do. So I'm excited to watch him grow. We also had a great sit down interview with Charles Leclerc. That was really great too. So I did not really make, Ferrari ended up using that in testing. Also, I guess they ended up not deciding after the practice session they weren't going to use it. Another thing is that the drivers, when they use their straight line mode, they have to the straight line mode with the active arrow. They have to be kind of careful using too much of that because it can wear down their planks. That was something else that was brought up. Also, Anthony Davidson, he brought up on the broadcast that these drivers, I mean, it's really hard because they're really having to, they don't have predictability or reliability in some of these cars. And so it's very kind of, going into straight line mode and things of that nature and all these different things they have to do, and they don't have the reliability. It's really quite tough on them, unless you're Mercedes or apparently Ferrari right now. Also, Red Bull was 1 second off. I mean, Max is just not happy. Even in the practice session, he was talking about this car is not drivable. The shifting is terrible. This whole thing is just terrible. I mean, he's just not really happy with that car at all. Don't know if it's the engine. Don't know if it's just the car setup. Don't know if it's all of it. Either way, I mean, you guys know he's been very vocal about it. That's one thing about him is he's going to tell you how he really feels. So we got into the qualifying for the sprint. I'm going to say this about qualifying in general. This is just a blanketed statement on this current season. I will say, as we get into the race chatter, that The racing was very exciting, both the sprint race and in the race. It was very exciting to watch the overtaking and the going back and forth and the wheel to wheel action that we will get into with the race. But qualifying just seems very off to me. Like, I don't like it. Usually up until this year, like, I'm on the edge of my seat in qualifying, especially in Q3 when you got a couple seconds left on or a couple minutes left on the clock, and you get these drivers out there literally putting everything they have out and pulling magic out of their hats to get in these windows of the performance of this car to get, the best qualifying lap. You don't have that now. I mean, now they're having to manage their batteries to make sure they don't run out of battery to get a lap in. It I'm just not a fan of the qualifying right now. The racing, yes, it's grown on me, but the qualifying, I just have to make that blanketed statement. And I don't know that this regulation is going to bring back that excitement that we used to have in qualifying. Granted, we knew if you qualified, on pole, that you likely could win the race because there was very little overtaking going into the race. But still, sitting on the edge of your seat, seeing how they just pulled it out of nowhere, it was so great to see these last several years specifically. Really, last year, when you would watch Lando and Oscar and Max just pull stuff out of nowhere. I mean, anyway, that's my soapbox for that, and I'll get off of it. So going into the sprint qualifying, really, and I only wanted to bring up that in the sprint quali 3, the last session, they had to use soft tires first off, and from 8 to 18th, they were all within a tenth off. That's crazy. So in the end, we had Russell pole for the sprint race, Kimmy, Lando, Hamilton, Oscar, Leclerc, Gasly, Verstappen, Behrman, Hadjar. That's kind of your 10. And the sprint race itself, I mean, again, we had Max Verstappen like 4 cars to go flying past him at the start because, again, he can't start. Again, the little mini turbo Ferrari has, they're flying off the front. So you got Mercedes and Ferrari just battling it. Somehow Kimmy kind of, I don't know, he lost a few places back to the Ferraris. And other than that, I mean, in the end, we had Russell win the sprint race, Leclerc and Hamilton on the sprint second and third, which I did say that it was Ferrari's weekend, maybe. So that's a start. Also, Lando was 5, Oscar 6, Max 9. Oof. And we had some DNFs. We had Hulkenberg, Bottas, and Limbad out. So that was the sprint. I do think that, like, okay, so going into qualifying for the race, Kimi Antonelli, man, he really took to heart that he didn't get anywhere in that sprint race. He really was looking to. He really did his homework. You could see him going over data in the garage beforehand, just really dissecting it. That kid, I mean, and I say kid because he is 19. He is I mean, he pulls out pole. The youngest pole setter since Sebastian Vettel did it. He was 21 when he did it, and Kimmy's now 19. I mean, I was so proud, so proud of Kimmy. And so he pulled out pole. Russell sat behind him, and that was the start. I was like, ooh, this is going to be entertaining. Can Kimmy pull it off? So the race. So, all right. So the race. I mean, so before let's say before the race even starts, we know that Lando's car is in the garage and it's not coming out. And they do the little, I call it a practice run before they line up on the grid. That McLaren was up on platforms in the garage. And they said they had an electrical problem going on with the PU. That's all they really would tell us. And that he wouldn't be in the race. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy town. And then Oscar, he did go out of the garage but then he came back in. And again, he's not out of the race. I'm like, how did we get here? The McLarens, they won the world championship 2 years in a row. The I mean, Lando won world championship. I mean, like, you're not going to start the race. And poor Oscar. Oscar, that is, I mean, a crazy statistic and is that McLaren has not started a race like a Grand Prix since 1957. Guys, that's crazy. These are the world champions that just came out of last year. What is happening? So that was awful. And then poor Oscar, like he really has not completed a lap in this season yet in a Grand Prix. I mean, that is crazy. So McLaren is really on the back foot, and as though we thought Max and our Red Bull and Isaac were having a hard time, I mean the McLarens, I mean, I don't know how much it gets worse than the Red Bull situation. So once again, here we have no McLaren starting the race. We also did not have Gabby Bortoleto with Audi. He was out. And also Alex Albon. It looks like Albon had a hydraulic issue. I don't really know what happened with Gabby's car. I don't recall, but I think it was something to do with the PU, but I'm not quite sure. Okay, so, okay, the race. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I did stay up until 2 a.m. to watch the race because that's what time it was for me. And I mean, that first 10 laps, I mean, the race starts and my first, and of course, Max, four cars go flying past him again. And the Ferraris, like a rocket ship, just launch off of it. And I mean, you got Leclerc out in front, Hamilton out in front, and it changed direction that first lap. Then you had Hajar spin in front of Ollie Behrman. I don't know how Ollie Behrman missed him, but he did. He swerved around him. That whole first lap, I was just like, holy crap. I mean, everywhere you looked, something crazy town was going on. So that was crazy. And then, okay, the will to will action of racing that we got with this race between Leclerc and Hamilton was off the charts. I felt like I was transformed back to 2022 with will to will action with, say, Max and Leclerc. I call it Lestaffen. I mean, it was will to will action. That was very entertaining to watch. And that looks like that to me takes real skills because that is not just you having to manage your battery, deploy when you're able, boost mode, overtake mode, whatever you want to call it. That is generally two skilled drivers battling it out and somehow managing not to hit each other. That was impressive driving. That was something I could get behind, and that was something that I can look forward to, and I hope we get more of that. That's not the part that I don't like. So that was very, very exciting, and I loved every second of that. Max got, of course, screwed again because he started on the soft. I don't really know why Red Bull strategy decided to start on the soft tires, but they did. Both Isaac and Verstappen started on the soft tires, and both of them got nowhere. Of course, Isaac has spun out. He had to come in and get new tires. Max decided to pit and get new tires as well, and they both got screwed because a virtual safety car literally came out 1 lap later. So when that virtual safety car came out, then of course then the rest of the field kind of changed tires. So I don't know. There's no answer for Red Bull right now. I just I lost for words for that one. But the will to will action of driving. So when they came in into the pit stops, Ferrari was able to get out in front for a bit, and they were racing back and forth. But then Kimi Antonelli, he was able to get in front, and then the Ferraris were able to keep Russell behind them, which was great. Kimi Antonelli at one point had about an 8 second lead advantage, which I was like, go Kimi, go Kimi. I mean, Kimi has to have this win. That's all I kept thinking. We cannot have every race won by George Russell. No, no, no. So I was like, go Kimi, go Kimi. I loved that like I said, the Ferraris going at it. That was entertaining, exciting. You could see the fire in both of them. And Russell was able to, of course, catch the Ferraris and get ahead of them, but he still stayed below about, I think he ended up about 6 seconds behind at the end of of Kimmy Russell. Also, then you had let me think about this. Okay. Okay, I can't believe that I looked up at one point. I think we were only like 11 laps in, maybe. And Calapinto was in second place of this race. Now, granted, he started on hard tires, he hadn't pitted, and everybody else had, but still, finally that Alpine has gotten to business. And I mean, Calapinto was looking solid. Gasly was looking very solid. Gasly planted himself at P6 for majority of the race, which was awesome. Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman is going to be a star. He is outstanding. He's got to P5, stayed in that position. Max Verstappen was kind of battling, so to speak, with the Alpines and the Haas's. I don't know how that's even possible, but that's where we are. So they really looked strong. In fact, that Alpine and those Haas's looked way stronger than the Red Bull did. B Carb looked solid. We had Lawson looked really good in the race as well. He was carrying his own up front. And guys, this is what happens when we have McLaren out, for example. This is the opportunity for these lower midfield teams to get ahead. Also, we had and he did not get enough credit in this race, and he didn't give himself any credit, but Sainz. Carlos Sainz was able to kind of stay up there in the points for majority of the race. And you didn't really get to see a whole lot of that, and they really didn't cover a whole lot of that. But that's really great because we all know Williams is on the back foot too, and they didn't have Albon even start in the race, and then Sainz is really trying to hold his own up in the point system. So you got to give people where credit's due, right? All right, and then Aston Martin. Oh my gosh, Aston Martin. Aston Martin, I mean, Fernando had to retire because his hands were hurting so bad. And they showed after the fact that he's taken his hands off the steering wheel multiple times within the race. That's scary stuff because it was shaking so bad and hurting so bad. Something's got to be done. And we're going to go into Japan next race, and boy, they better be all over that. So he had to retire. Of course, Stroll had to also retire from the race. So we had those retirements too. So we ended up with 7 retirements before we ended this race. But the highlight, the highlight, Kimi Antonelli, he pulls off a win. He pulls off this win. He gets pole, and then he wins the race. The second youngest driver to win a race. The last Italian that won a race was 20 years ago, guys. That is amazing. I loved Toto's cheeky comments coming on the radio that were like, they said we couldn't do it. They said we were too young. They said you should be on a lower team. And here you are, a race winner. So, little punchy there because we did all say that. I mean, a lot of people said that he's too young. He is proven us that he can do it. And all I kept thinking about when he won was, could he win the championship this year against Russell? Might be a little too ambitious for that quite yet, but I'm still going to hold out that he can battle Russell all season long. The other greatness is that Lewis got him a podium. Finally, he wins with Ferrari, gets on the podium. He is beaming, and I thought to myself, this is fantastic that we have Lewis on the podium with Kimi's first win. And so they do their when they're doing the interviews at the end of the race. When David Coulthard's interviewing Kimi, and he just starts crying. I start crying. I think everybody probably started crying because it was just so emotional and so fantastic all in one. So great to see. Lewis Hamilton even saying, first off, congratulations to Kimi for winning this first race. You'll always remember this. You'll never forget it. The whole thing was just like pulled on your heartstrings, this is what Formula One is about. Like, this is what we come in to watch all of this crazy stuff for each race, is for this kind of stuff. We want to see not miracles, greatness happen for these athletes that have worked their whole lives toward this goal, especially your first win. And then we get up to the cool down room. I laughed and laughed and laughed because in the cool down room, Hamilton, bless his heart, hasn't been in there in a while because he was not there last year at all. And he gets in the podium room and he gets sits on the couch and he's like, "Oh, this is a lot nicer than the press conference couch." I laughed because that was really funny. And they're watching the race and they're patting Kimmy on the, it was just such a surreal moment because, I mean, Hamilton, I think even made a comment that Kimmy was one when Hamilton won his first race, I want to say. It's just staggering. It's just a full circle moment. It's really awesome to see. So then we get to the podium and the announcer says, Kimi Raikkonen. Don't think it's Kimi Raikkonen. Bless his heart. So, uh, anyway, so that was amazing to see on the podium and then to celebrate Kimmy, and I loved every minute of that. And I hope we get way more of that the rest of this season because that would hopefully make more for this season. Okay, so then some talking points that kind of came out of the race after following. Okay, so where do we stand with some updates? So, okay, so we did get the announcement made that we would not have Bahrain or Saudi races in April. They are canceling. That actually kind of got leaked before they told everybody because on the broadcast on Apple platforms, the races said called off suddenly. I mean, we kind of already knew that was going to happen. So our my thoughts and prayers are with those in those regions that are affected by everything going on right now. It was the best call. So basically, we will have 4 weeks. I mean, we're gonna have all of April off, so that's longer than the teams have for summer break. So hopefully, that also gives teams opportunities to upgrade and do some things with these cars, specifically McLaren and Red Bull, and Williams actually, and Aston Martin, I guess I should say. So so that means that we're gonna basically not we have Japan coming up. So they had talked about maybe changing some of the rules or processes that they have after China. However, because we're going to have um, Japan up next and then we're going to have a break, it sounds like not really any changes are going to be made between now and Japan because that's just we skip a week and then we'll have that. I think majority of the changes, if they're going to be changes, will happen during the month of April before going into Miami. What those will be, I don't know. There's conflicting arguments across the board. I mean, clearly Mercedes and Ferrari feel like nothing needs to be changed. Like during the press conferences following the race, I mean, you had Lewis saying this is the most fun he's had in a long time. He loves driving these cars. You had Charles Leclerc, who didn't even get on the podium, saying that that's the most fun that he's had in battling wheel to wheel racing. It was so much fun with Hamilton. He was generally happy for him to get on the podium. It wasn't sad for him at all because he really enjoyed it. So, I mean, you got that on one side. And then you have, I'm not just going to put all the blame on Max for saying that, this car's undrivable. I mean, it's terrible. I hate this regulations. I hate this. I hate that. I mean, it's not Max just being, I want out kind of an attitude. I mean, he generally loves the sport and he really loves the cars. And I don't know that I do think it's the engine, but you shouldn't, there's got to be something changed because we shouldn't have these many cars. We had what, 5 cars out before we even started the race, basically. I mean, that's too much. And then also we have so many cars that are losing their battery on the formation lap before starting the race. I mean, we that's got to be fixed. Like something has to be done. Of course, I would love to go to 70-30 instead of 50-50, but I don't know if they'll make that drastic of a change for 26. That could be something they might change for 27. And there are things that hopefully they can change on the car. McLaren, for example, I'll use them as an example. McLaren in 23, they made in 2023, they made some significant changes about 6 or 7 races in that really just launched them ahead forward. And so I think they probably have, or other teams have, kind of that plan. But now that we aren't having two races, so to speak, how much, how many upgrades were they planning on only bringing to Miami versus how many were they only going to bring when we got to, you know, Bahrain, so to speak? So will they make more significant changes between since they'll have some more time off? I hope so. And I hope that gives them more time to be able to develop these cars more because I mean, having these not starting races is heartbreaking for these teams. Um, as far as the Red Bull's concerned, I think that they can make some changes to maybe the car, the aerodynamics of the car. I don't know if the PU is the problem per se, unless that's something that is the reason that he's having a hard time launching off the start or running out of battery. That definitely is a concern. So maybe we can get some of this fixed. I don't know what direction it's going to go. I just really hope that they can make some adjustments because I feel like every team, that's part of the excitement of the start of the race is everyone gets off the line and goes forward, going at it to turn one. I mean, that is what the sport is about, and that's what we need in this sport. Um, also, I think like I watched like Racing 365. I watch a lot, and Nick he covers Formula E. And so he was asked the question, like when covering Formula E, like, how does it work with the overtakes and all this? I mean, is it just constant because it's all battery? And he said, I mean, you have hundreds of overtakes in a race with Formula E, but that's not really what excels you at being like the top notch and winning the race. It's their in Formula E, they actually try to conserve their batteries more. And so here in Formula One, we're trying to manage these batteries and back and forth and running out of battery and all these things. And it's just it's not working. I mean, well, it is if you're Mercedes and Ferrari. Apparently, they figured it out a way to do it. But I also think those engines are better. So as we get further in and these other engines get more developed, and also we have that loading compression issue. And is that Mercedes really 2% faster? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. And we'll know about June 1st. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. So that's kind of my takeaways. The last thing I wanted to bring up was F1 Academy. So F1 Academy was back. It was their first race of the season. They will have 7 rounds, and we have 17 drivers and 6 teams spread out. We had a brand new team join just recently. It's Sephora. That was really cool. I love to see that the car looked like the bag you carry out of Sephora, the black and white. That was really awesome. So and if you're unfamiliar with F1 Academy, I highly encourage you to watch it. They have about 7 races a season. They're going to lose one too because they had one scheduled for Saudi Arabia, I think. So they won't, it doesn't look like any of these races are going to be made up. We're just going to have, whatever we're left with, I do believe. But I was able to watch some of that racing, which was awesome. And they do a reverse order type of qualifying. So they do a qualifying session, and then they have race one, which is a reverse grid order, and then they have a race two, which is the top grid order, normal grid order, I should call it. So in the first race, we had Nina with Alpine won the race, and then Natalie with Sephora, and then Emma with Audi. That was awesome. Those are all new drivers on the grid this year, so that was great for them. And then in the second race, we had Emma with Audi, uh, Alicia with Red Bull, and Peyton with Mercedes. So how cool is that? That Sephora, I mean, first time on the grid, and that car gets on the podium. So really cool. Love that. Love to see it. Another thing that fascinates me is how beautiful these girls are. I mean, they're just badasses. I mean, they can drive cars fast. They're athletic. They're beautiful. They take their hair out of the helmet and they look amazing. I mean, it's just fascinating to watch. I love it. I love watching these girls just build their careers. I love that Formula One gets behind it and supports them. And then I love that even during the Formula One race that I saw all the girls in the garages with the teams. I love, love, love the support. So I think it's awesome to see, and I look forward to watching the next one. So I am very lucky because I'm going to go to Zandvoort this year, and I'll get to see him live. I was really disappointed because the last time I went to a live race in Austin, they weren't there that year. So I'm really excited to follow F1 Academy and see what great things these girls do this year as well. So that is all for this week's episode, to kind of give you just some highlights of what went down this week. So we will have a week off, and then we will be heading to Suzuka. I don't even know how I'm going to predict Suzuka. Suzuka is another track. So, okay. So Australia, again, that track is energy draining. It's very hard to harvest energy. It sucks the batteries out really quickly. The track that we just had in China was kind of a little bit better on that regard because it had some shorter corners. They were able to harvest a little bit better. But as we get into Suzuka in Japan, I mean, it's kind of in the middle. So, not sure. Historically, it's been a great track for Red Bull, but with the engine, I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything between, a week in between of any sort of adjustments or not. Pray that they can. I hope that at least the McLarens can start the race. I mean, baby steps, I guess, at this point. So I don't anticipating a whole lot of changes, but I hope enough changes that some of these teams can get it together, and then they will have 4 weeks to kind of figure it out even further. So I'm probably, unfortunately, going to have to say it's going to be a McLaren and, Mercedes and Ferraris again on the podium. I hope it's Kimmy again. That would be awesome. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So don't forget to subscribe. Bye.